Welcome to the Tone Lounge Podcast, the definitive music industry and gear podcast with Jonathan Gilmet and Frank Fleckenstein.
Welcome, everybody. This is the Tone Lounge Podcast. It's episode number 6, and we're actually pre-recording this, so the time you're going to watch this, it's between Christmas and New Year's, so that, we can entertain you with a couple of interesting things, even though we both are with our families, and we take a well-deserved time off. With me, as always, live from Belgium, my good buddy Jonathan. How are you doing this morning, sir?
From now on, I want you to really address me as the Duke of Voxington. I've adopted it. I just need a cane and a nice hat, and
yeah. At some point, we need to invent some sort of titles for us. I mean, okay, you have one. You're the Duke of Voxington.
We'll find you one too.
I'm gonna find one too. Maybe the Sultan of, I don't know, the Sultan of Glassery.
I'll find you one. I'll find you a good one.
It'll
be a nice play on the whole FFX and pedals and knowing a lot about gear. I'll find something. It's going to be clever.
Yeah, definitely. Before we start with the main topic of this episode, I would like to do some housekeeping. We talked about it in the last episode. So we are currently running 2 main giveaways. One giveaway is going to take place when we reach 250 subscribers on YouTube. We're then going to give away a limited edition pink Jupiter FX Wallow, which is their interpretation of a Big Muff, but with some nice little added extras and bells and whistles. So that's going to happen when we reach 250. And then when we reach 500, we're actually going to give away a one-off colored Arc of Tone by yours truly. This one.
Yep,
exactly. So yeah, if you're interested in participating, the only thing you have to do is subscribe to the channel, and ideally you hit the bell icon as well so that you get a notification. I guess that's all the housekeeping. Unless you have something that you would like to add.
Well, I just want to say thank you to Chris from Jupiter FX for doing this. It's very kind of him to do that, because we're still very small at this point, and we're trying to get the podcast out there. And things like this really do help us out, and he was generous enough to offer, and that's awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Chris. Really, it's awesome. We've received from quite a few people. We've received like really kind words for the stuff we've been doing so far. I mean, we're at episode 6, but it seems like we're kind of going in the right direction. People seem to appreciate the topics and the way we talk about these things. So we're going to continue delivering you exactly that.
Absolutely.
Our main topic today is we're going to look back a little bit at what happened inside 2023 regarding gear releases. And we thought that we're going to set the following rules. Each of us gets to pick a personal top 5. And if it comes up, we might bring in honorable mentions. And I think I'm just gonna start with my number 5. And number 5 is less of it's not so much a new release. It's something that I've discovered this year, which has been a huge plus for me. And it is a small company out of Croatia called Q Pickups. Q like the letter Q.
Okay.
Q Pickups. And it's essentially a one-man operation. Is one guy who is making pickups by hand in Croatia and actually kind of more like a rural area. And what this guy does, he apparently got his hand on a couple of really rare and iconic pickups, and then found out, that's how they did them. But a shit ton of material and is now recreating them. And among the pickups are, for example, the pickups that are difficult to find now that were in the first John Mayer signature Stratocaster, the Big Dipper single coils. He also makes really great. I have a set of PAF style humbuckers, which sound really amazing. They sound like, what you would expect when you hear somebody, hey, this is an old Les Paul with PAF style humbuckers, and he plays.
Okay.
It plays the humbuckers, and they sound like really bell-like. They have like this really bell-like tone, really round and soft, like so. And discovering them was a big plus for me because they make these pickups at a super reasonable price. So essentially, if you wanted the Big Dipper style set of single coils, they're 150 euros. Which is...
Yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah.
For a set of 3 single coils, I mean, look at the other companies and see what you get for 150. Maybe you get a one pickup, or you get a set of 2 because, you know, for a Telecaster or something.
Yeah.
So I can't recommend them enough, not only because of the quality, but also if you wanted something extra. Let's say there is a set of pickups and you have an extra wish, maybe. So what he did, for example, with the Big Dipper set, he actually installed a tap wire on the bridge pickup, so you could change the output of the bridge pickup to have it like run a little bit hotter, and you can do that with a switch, or you just decide for one of the wires because you like the higher output as your standard better, and you wanted to keep it that way. So you can also ask for like slight customizations, which is something you can't do with companies like Seymour Duncan or DiMarzio. Maybe with Seymour Duncan you can choose the plastic cover color or something, but you're not able to say, hey, can you do the middle pickup RWRP, for example, you know, like reverse bound and polarized. You can't do that with him. So I urge everyone, if you're looking for a set of great pickups with good quality, look for qpickups.com. We're going to link to all of the things in the description below. And his name is Tihomir, I think. He's also a really cool guy to talk to. His answers are, I think, because he's like so busy making pickups all day, his answers are rather short, but they're on point. So if you ask him
those are the best answers.
Something, yeah, exactly. And he's like, I was asking him, hey, can you do this and that? And he's like, sure, no problem, we'll do. Greetings. It's like, what else? What else do you need?
That's a busy guy, man.
Yeah. And since I'm planning to launch a guitar project next year, so I'm actually launching a little guitar line, nothing mass production wise, just like a little, because I figured out I like making guitars, and all of them are gonna have Q pickups in them. So I'm glad that I found them, and I'm glad that I found a company that can deliver that quality and the chance for customization at a reasonable price, which is impossible to get these days. So Q pickups is on number 5 on my list.
And is that the gold foils that you have in one of your Strats?
Yes.
Are those the Q pickups? Yeah.
Yes.
Those
you
sounded
played
awesome
them at
when I
Guitar
tried your
Summit,
guitar.
right? Yeah, exactly.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, they sounded killer.
Yeah, those were the PAF style humbuckers with the gold foils. And you can get them in black, you can get them, that's the other thing. He also does like different covers. Nothing too crazy, but he does like the gold foils with like gold foil, silver foil, blue foil, I think, as well. So he has a couple of options.
Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah, 100%. What's your number 5?
So my number 5 is going to be this one here. It's a bit big, but gotta take this out. So it's this guitar right here. Sorry, I suck with getting it on camera.
So no worries.
Basically, this is a guitar that was sent to me by this company called 48ers. Yeah. And at first I didn't really get why 48ers. You kind of think of the 49ers, like the sports team. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that actually these guys are out of your hometown. They're out of Cologne.
What? How come I don't know?
I don't know, but they're from your hometown. And the guy who makes these, Dirk, was going through YouTube looking at the people that were at Guitar Summit, because these guys were at Guitar Summit. Yeah. And he's like, hey, are you interested in checking out a guitar? I'm like, yeah, of course. So what makes this guitar particular is that the body and neck are made in, I believe it's Poland. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken. My memory is not all that great, but I believe that's where it's made. And there's a guy out there that makes the neck, makes the body, sends it to Dirk in Cologne. And then Dirk proceeds with doing like all the fret job, all the stuff like the electronics, assembles it. And this guitar, being handmade in Europe, sells for less than 1,000 euros. What? And and that was the goal with these guitars, is to give you a high quality guitar, but under 1,000 euros. They don't do any custom work because it's just like basically one guy doing it. But this is like a bone nut. You have Goto tuners on here. It's CTS spot, but they put these Tesla pickups in here, and that's where they save money. So it's not like DiMarzio or Seymour Duncan or anything fancy, but they're still very good sounding pickups, and that's why Dirk went with it. So really where they're saving money is the fact that the guitars are assembled in a country where it doesn't cost too much to buy the wood and pre-manufactured parts. And then it's one person going over all the quality control for the instrument. So they're not building like 5,000 of these guitars a year. So there's still a lot of attention put to quality control. Mm-hmm. And the 48ers is because the neck is wide. So the nut here is 48 millimeters. Okay, more like a classical guitar, if you will. So as you can see, I don't have small hands, right? So when you get on here, I suck at this stuff. So when I get it on here, my hands are just super comfortable. If I use something like my Steve Morse, it's a more narrow neck, and I tend to play a lot of flub notes. But on this here, you have a lot of string separation. So it's way more articulate for someone with big, clumsy hands like me to play something like this. And the guitar is in baby blue. I know it's not coming across too much on here. It looks like a darker blue. It's baby blue. I believe this is, he told me, and now I forget. But if I remember right, I think this is poplar or something like that. It's a more affordable wood. You have maple neck, rosewood fretboard, and it's a really thick chunk of rosewood that's on here. Kind of like on a bass. Usually on a bass, you have like a really big slab. So yeah, all in all, man, this guitar here, awesome guitar. And it's not because they gave me the guitar that I'm recommending it. It's actually because I really enjoy the guitar. Because the understanding I had with Dirk was that if I didn't like the guitar, I was just going to send it back. And I'm very picky with guitars. But this thing here is my number 5. It's actually really cool. And these guys started this year. So 2023 was their year. And they're like trying to build up. But, they don't have a whole lot of resources. And I think they do great work for like under 1,000, a guitar of this with these specs. It's unheard of. Like I've never seen that before.
I'm just checking their website actually. Yeah, that's the Love Liner that you had, right?
Yeah, the Love Liner, and mine is the version that has the 2 humbuckers. There's another version that has a humbucker in the bridge and a single coil in the neck. And then they have the other one, I forget the name of it, where it's more like Les Paul shaped. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that one is shaped more like a Les Paul. And those are the two models that they have for right now.
Right, yeah. And they're $899 and $849, which is that's very nice.
I mean,
so,
we're talking what, like Epiphone, high-end Epiphone, high-end Squire. It's in that price range, right?
Yeah, 100%. But they're not from my hometown. That's I was running, but they're not from my hometown. They're actually I mean, they're not far away. No, they're not so far away from me. I would say like an hour and a half, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
I was sure he had told me that he was from Cologne,
but
it might be me just misunderstanding.
Yeah, but yeah, nice. And the thing that really like speaks to me is it's made in Europe. It's made in Europe. That's definitely something that I enjoy. I think it is rare these days, and there's some stuff that you can't. There's stuff that you can't evade. I mean, it's impossible, especially when it comes to components, to say I'm gonna have everything made and placed and whatnot in Europe. It's impossible. If I would do PCB boards in Europe, my pedals would cost double.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep.
It's just impossible.
And that's one of the things I found really interesting. Like the Tesla pickups, I believe those are made in South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still sold like a premium guitar pickup, but at a way more affordable price. And the ones that are in here, I'm not even sure I would change the pickups on this thing. They're nice and hot, but they're clear. There's no mud, and they're really well designed pickups. So if anyone ever wonders, like, is there like a cheap alternative to, let's say, DiMarzio or Seymour Duncan, and you don't want to go with like pickups on Amazon that you never heard of, Tesla, these ones here, man, they're awesome. I think they are again, I suck. I think it's Nitro 3 or something like that that's in here. And very cool. Yep. That's my number 5.
I fully agree. I've heard of Tesla pickups. They've always been kind of around, but I've never taken a closer look at things. So I think I think I need to do that.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think some Harley Benton guitars have Tesla pickups in them. Like some of the higher end Harley Benton guitars have them, or had them at some point. I'm not too sure on if they still use them, but I know that there's echoes out there of having Tesla pickups at some point in those guitars.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna go with my number 4, and that's going to come in as a surprise for you because I've criticized the unit so much. But again, if I look at what happened inside this year, at number 4 actually comes in the Fender Tone Master Pro.
We're no longer friends, man.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, if you can't stick with your principles,
I'm aware of the fact that you are. No, the thing is that although I've criticized the unit, I also want to point out that I've also said a lot of very, very positive things about it, especially when it comes to and I had a discussion with a friend the other day who also works in this industry for like 30 years, and he says like, dude, I'm old school. Give me a like 1-channel tube amp, like a combo and a guitar, and I don't even need pedals. I'm gonna be fine. And all that kind of like new modeling stuff, I appreciate that it's there, and it definitely has its purpose. But the interaction, every time I sit in front of these things, I'm like, oh, I need to get out of here. It's I can't stand dealing with these things. And here is where all the positive aspects of the Tone Master Pro come in, because the interaction is like somebody who is a complete, and I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes, But there are people out there who don't have the capacity to get into these things. That's why they play simple setups, that they can definitely handle. And for these people, it would be super easy to get great tones and out of the Tone Master Pro and handle it. And also, we've seen with the past couple of weeks, we've seen that Fender is actually invested in upgrades and getting rid of all the issues that the unit had and all these things. So I feel confident that this is something they're definitely not going to abandon at some point, like they did some other stuff, like the Mustang series at some point was like, okay, we're not going to invest more time in that. So that's why it comes in, because sonically, like sound-wise, I have nothing negative to say about the Tone Master Pro. It sounds killer. Could it have more amps? Sure, yeah, I said that. I think if you want to compete at a higher level, especially if you want to compete with like some of the big guys, you should bring more to the table from the start. And it seems like Fender's doing that. So kudos to them. And let's look. I mean, obviously, we have to look into the future and see what's happening. But I'm confident that Fender is starting this as a project that they want to maintain, because they need to establish themselves with a different sort of player. All the traditionals, they already have them in the books. So So number 4 is the unexpected Fender Tone Master Pro.
I got a question for you about that one. Do you think that Fender came just a bit short because they didn't have anything that, as you just mentioned, really set them apart? Like if you consider something like the Quad Cortex, or I don't know, the HX Stomp, they all have their own little thing that they are going for a specific person. Or even like the Kemper now has the liquid profiling, which is a new update to the unit, which keeps it relevant in this competition. It's very like airtight, right? There's not many competitors in here. There's only 4 or 5 companies. And Fender comes out, says, this is a unit. It sounds great. It's easy to use, but they didn't really bring anything different. Like if they would have had some form of profiling, or maybe like some kind of rig download that you could have where you could profile your own old Fender at home. Like let's say you have a really rare version of a certain amp from the 1960s. You could profile it, put it up on the cloud, and then people could go and download it. I think that might have been something cool with them. Do you think that they probably missed the mark on that one?
I think what happened, and obviously I don't have any insight into their processes, but I think what happened here was they maybe had planned to put a lot more stuff into that unit when they launched it, but they maybe ran into unexpected issues or errors, or maybe there was a problem. We hear that every day, or I hear every day that there are manufacturers that are struggling with getting the production right. And I mean, this is a unit that is supposed to look killer as well. It has like the aluminum chassis, and it has like everything is a glass front. So you want all of this to look amazing. You want it to look good, and therefore you need because it is produced in China. It says on the back it is produced in China. So they obviously, you want to get the production right, and if you send out hundreds of units to all the retailers all over the world, then you want to make sure that all of these arrive exactly as you want them to arrive. So they might have run into a lot of other issues that prevented them from going full on with their feature set. And that's why we are seeing this now. Like, okay, they're fixing the mistakes, and there are people who said some sort of capture feature is going to come. What they had from the start, though, was this kind of cloud based community where you could upload and download presets. So they had that was already there, but that's relatively easy to build in comparison to, let's say, a capture feature where there's so many parameters and variables to it. So I think they seriously ran into issues that prevented them from saying, we are launching this with the biggest bang you can imagine. However, they didn't change their marketing, because that's exactly what they said. It's like the unit with the most processing power and the unit with like the easiest interaction. They were right with the interaction, but the processing power, and maybe it was there, but nothing that was in there took advantage of the processing power, really. So
that's the other thing too. And I just had this idea while you were talking, things that could have set them apart if they would have delayed just a bit. And we're right now starting to see a big slope going upwards of AI technology. That could have been something that, if they would have developed it, could have put it in there and use it to, whatever, some degree that would help musicians create new tones and all this stuff. And they could have just completely annihilated everyone with like, hey, this is the first unit that uses AI technology for processing and this and that. That would have like completely changed the game and put them like right at the top of the food chain. And sometimes you probably have to, you sometimes you have to like think about, do I want to put this out right now half baked, or do I want to just delay it just a bit so we can perfect this technology and really set ourselves apart? Because I really like this motto where you say different is better than better. So if you're trying to do better than everyone, but you're doing the exact same thing, it's a race where no one ever wins, because everyone brings out a new technology, more processing. But if you're doing something completely different, sometimes that can really set you apart from everybody else. That is just a thought on that particular unit. So I guess it's my number 4. Let's see, because I'm really like got a hard time choosing. I'm gonna go with this one here. It's the Surfy Bear Fuzz, Surfy Fuzz. So when I went to Guitar Summit, there were 2 units that really interested me at their table. There was the classic reverb, which is the Big Tank spring reverb, and then there was this one here. Now, if you don't know, I'm a huge fuzz junkie. I love fuzz pedals, and this one here, I didn't have anything remotely close to it. So what it is, it's basically a modified, like heavily modified Fuzzrights circuit, and they have this toggle right here in the center where you can get more of an octave up effect from this unit, it sounds awesome. And they have different controls too. You have the harmonics and mass, and the harmonics seems to be sculpting the higher mids, and the mass is bringing in like way more low mid. So it's not affecting high frequencies and low frequencies. It's still within the mid range. But you could take like something like a Strat and make it sound like a humbucker is in there, even though you have single coils. You can make it sound so thick. And that's what I really enjoyed about this unit. And then while I was doing the video, I thought to myself, I think I'm going to try it with the bass and just see, like, sometimes you got certain pedals, fuzz pedals that are meant for guitar, but they sound great with bass. And this one here was just crushing it with bass. I could get all sorts of tone out of a frickin' P bass, right? It really floored me. And I wrote to them and I said, that fuzz is incredible. Like, I've never tried a circuit like this before, and I didn't know that this was actually what I was looking for. Like, I have so many fuzzes. I have like 40 of them, which is probably nothing to some people. They're going to be 40, dude. Are you kidding me? I have way more than that, but 40 to me is a lot. And I'm really glad I got to try this one, because seriously, man, it is absolutely crushing. If you're into the Mosrite, Fuzzrite type of circuit, this one here is just absolutely brilliant.
Amazing. And it's a company that in comparison is still relatively small. It's not like they're a huge manufacturer. So Yeah,
Yep.
amazing. So that's very good. My number 3 this year is a unit coming out of one of my favorite companies. It's the company called Two Notes, and it's the Revolt guitar analog amp simulation, which was essentially launched, went to market in May of this year. And what I really like about this, I mean, in these first episodes, we've talked a lot about the topic of the rigs getting more compact and things going to be like more direct. And I mean, we already see people on the road with a pedalboard only setup. You know, it's we're already there. So I guess now what companies are going to focus on is how can we improve that? How can we get the maximum out of this to get the feeling as realistic as possible, to get the feature set even better. And I think Two Notes, what they did with the Revolt is they already went there. So they essentially, because this thing is super compact, and it essentially gives you a full 3-channel amp with Two Notes technology for your pedal board. Yeah, for your pedal board that doesn't need any. You don't need anything else. You have everything that you need is in there, like all the Two Notes stuff that you know, the IRs and everything, and you'll essentially get a US style clean channel. You'll get some kind of mid to slightly high gain Marshall, and you'll get sort of SLO 100 leads out of it. You have an effects loop. You have an effects loop in there. You have MIDI out and in, so this whole thing can also be switched via MIDI, which is amazing. So if you have other things that you arrange and control via MIDI, you can just include it in your chain. And it is super compact. It's like 7 by 4.5 by 3 inches. It's nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Wow. Okay, yeah, so small footprint. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And then whatever kind of pedals you use in front or in the loop, you can just include those, and you're going to be fine. And you're going to get the same like kind of analog interaction that you know from your amp. And the whole thing comes in at $399. So it's also like it's pretty much a no-brainer if you want to.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. You're getting basically 3 amplifiers with a lot of modern accoutrements for less than like $400. Yeah. It seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome.
And it's also tube-based, so the whole thing has, I'm not sure, I think the internal voltage is 250 volts, so you definitely won't lack headroom for sure. No. So yeah, so that's my number 3. I think Two Notes already went where a couple of other companies are currently trying to go, like to max out on the feature set, the sound, and sort of the where this kind of ampless setup is going.
Very interesting. So I'm going to show you my number 3.
Please.
So it's, I swear I'm going to get it at some point. So you see this on the bridge?
Oh, that's the Bender.
Yeah, it's the B&G Bender.
Yes.
So basically, the story behind this unit is that when I was at Guitar Summit, this is going to be a theme throughout this video because Guitar Summit had a big impact on me this year. So,
yeah.
I'm over at Guitar Summit on the Saturday. Mm-hmm. So I go upstairs. I'm on the 3rd floor where there's these doors, and there's this one square room in the middle, and there's a bunch of people there, and they're all obviously competing for some attention because, I mean, it was crowded. Yeah. And one of the guys over there, sees me with the camera, gets my attention, and starts to show me the stuff he's making. So this one here, that's basically his bridge, which is solid. I believe he told me this is a steel bridge.
Okay.
And he's got this really clever, and I know it sucks because my lighting is not great, but I have a whole video about the install. So if anyone wants to go and watch it, you can watch it. But he came up with this design, and it's killer. You don't even have to, like, there's no routing in my guitar, right? Come on. I wouldn't make a very good airplane pilot, I can tell you that. So, so you got brass saddles on here. Everything is top notch. Like, it's great quality and no modification to the guitar. Like, if you don't like this, you can just take it off and sell it and put your old bridge back. So there's no mods at all with this one. And I've seen others where they have like these goofy things coming out like this. So they're playing and they have to like use these levers just to bend the pitch. I was like, that looks goofy as fuck. Like, I don't want to have that on my guitar. But when I saw this, I was like, man, look, it's kind of in the way. If you're like me and you play like dead center, you're going to knock your, like, you can hear that. So I have to adapt my playing, but this is meant for country, right? So a lot of country players are playing a hybrid style where their hand isn't like, they're not old Western guys just playing country chords. So it requires me adapting, but seriously, the innovation behind this is absolutely brilliant. It's not invasive. You don't have to mod the guitar. So, and it's really well thought out. Everything is spec'd out. So yeah, this is my number 3. Like, when I saw this at Guitar Summit, I was like, I want to try it. And anyone that doesn't know, Apollo Music Parts, which makes these, the owner of it, Remco, is a super brilliant guy. He's been in this industry for a long time, and he actually works with Frank Falbo.
Oh, right. Okay.
Who used to be at Seymour Duncan, right?
Yeah.
So the both of them work together, and they come up with parts. And Frank Falbo's using his gear on his own guitars now that he's making. So yeah, Remco is brilliant guy. He's got some great ideas, and he's just super down to earth guy. So yeah, I can't recommend this one enough. If you're wanting to try that without like destroying your guitar, this is the way to go.
Yeah, I really admire people who come up with aftermarket parts that do not need any modification of your guitar. I absolutely love that. And I think we need more of these people. We need more of these, they're brilliant minds, They're looking at if you look at, in this case, it's a Telecaster. If you look at guitars that are built in a modular way, so the Strat is built in a modular way, the Telecaster is built in a modular way, and then these guys kind of in their heads, they're taking the whole thing apart, and they're looking at, okay, how is this actually built? And if I wanted to like add something to that, what do I need to modify? And then they look at it again. It's like, okay, how can I avoid modifying it? And I think it's absolutely brilliant. I wish we had more. I mean, we have a lot of people who can do that. But yeah, I wish we just had more, because this is a brilliant way.
It's a brilliant one. And if you go on their website, you can look at the other innovations. Like, he makes a guitar neck. And the guitar neck that he makes is intended for guitars that are equipped with tremolos, especially like Floyd Rose type tremolos. And when you want to drop tune those guitars, forget it. The bridge starts to move and all this stuff. Well, he makes this neck where there's just these tiny levers that you just move over, and it acts like a capo. So your 2 bigger strings, okay, so the E and A, or if you have a 7-string, that could be your B and E. You just move that over, and all of a sudden you're in drop B or drop C or whatever key you want to be in. And then when you want to go back to standard, you just flip it, and the bridge doesn't move.
Whoa, okay.
So, yeah, very interesting. And he also makes these, let's say you're playing a multi-scale guitar with like fan frets and all this. He makes this bridge where it looks like little cylinders, and they're all independently placed on the bridge part. So that way your guitar, you can do the intonation without having it constricted to a whole massive bridge. They're their own individual bridge. So if you look at the designs, man, he's got a lot of really fucking cool shit on there.
What's the name of the company again? Sorry.
It's called Apollo Music Parts. He's out of Australia.
Australia.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, we're going to link to that.
Very cool guy, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely we will. And I chatted with him because when I received the bridge, he wanted to make sure that I knew how to install it and all this stuff. And, oh man, he's a great guy. He's awesome. I really like him.
Amazing. Yeah. As I said, we need more of these guys out there. It's
absolutely.
It's good that they exist. Okay. Moving on. My number 2 of this year is an amp that we've recently also spoken about, which is the Soldano Astro 20. And this has nothing to do with the fact that I tested it myself. Even looking at the feature set from the outside is enough to consider this making any top 10 list or top 5 list of the year, for the sheer fact that you'll get an amp that you can use in whatever situation. If you're playing at home, if you're playing only with headphones, if you're playing live, if you're playing in the studio, if you want to offer the studio technician or the live technician a DI signal that sounds great, that he doesn't have to adjust until, there's nothing left of it. And for the sheer fact that you can make this amp work in a lot of musical contexts. You can use this with single coils and get the classic like single coil Strati or Telecaster style sound out of it. You'll get the mid gain stuff. You'll get the high gain stuff, which Soldano is famous for. And then again, for people who don't want to deal with this at the front, or for people who want to like get more into like more in depth, there is an editor, but it is so simple that even people who don't like editors and detest them is going to be like, oh, okay, top, 3 clicks of a button and you're good to go. And there's your IR. And for people who want to go crazy with IRs because they have a collection, like a gigabyte collection of IRs, and they want to get into the nitty gritty stuff, they can do it as well. And it's fun. I've seen a funny comment that I replied to as well to the video I did on the Soldano Astro 20, where they're like, I don't care how great it sounds. If it's $2,000, it should be a 100 watt head. It's and I was thinking about this, and then I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. And I'm 100% certain you can get 100 watt heads for even way less than that. In fact, you can get a 100 watt amplifier for like what, 700, 800 new. And if you want something classic, you can check the used market. You can get that, but you won't get an IR loader. You won't get a direct out. You won't get MIDI functionality, and you won't get a chance to edit this with your computer if you want to get into the nitty-gritty details.
And you won't be able to play it at bedroom level and get a great sound. That's the other thing too.
Yes. Yeah. And so I said, but it's okay. Not everybody needs that kind of feature set, but then again, not everybody needs a 100 watt amp. So it's like,
no, and the thing is too, with what comes with that Astro 20, even if you don't need it, the just the fact that it's there, and you could be in a situation, let's say you go and you play live and you're told that we can't have a live amp on stage. Don't you have like a Fractal or a Helix? And you're like, no, I got a 100-watt Marshall head here. What are you going to do? Well, with the Astro, you can say, okay, just take the line out, send it out to the console, and give me more of me in the monitors. So it makes you adaptable. So even if you don't use it like 100% of the time, if there's just that one scenario in the whole time you have the amp where you can use it, then it saves your ass. Because you don't have to bring something like the Captor X or the Captor whatever 16.8 or whatever with you, just in case you're in one of those scenarios. Because sometimes you play a gig and you don't even know what the setup looks like, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's that's the thing. That's what definitely makes the difference. You can play this in whatever situation you are, even if it's a situation that you haven't foreseen, and it might happen only once in your life, but that one time in your life is going to save your ass.
Exactly.
You don't have to play with something that you don't know, that you don't like, maybe. So so number 2, the Soldano Astro 20. What's your number 2? Very
cool. My number 2 is actually something else. I said the theme was going to be Guitar Summit. So my number 2, look at me not being in front of the camera. So this is the Freeway.
Yes.
Okay. What it is, for anyone that hasn't heard of it, it's an analog, but it's not 100% analog. There's obviously some digital elements to this, but the core of this is a preamp, a guitar preamp that has built-in IRs, but the IRs and microphone, they're not the digital kind. I don't know what Jose, I don't know if it's like EQ curves or some kind of thing that he's using to emulate this, but basically you have stereo outs, and the voicing of this is more like a Fender. So the way to consider this is that you have a clean platform where you can use any pedal you wish. It has a 1x12 and 4x12 emulation. You have Sennheiser E906 and the Shure SM57 as microphone options. And then you can choose on axis or off axis. So if you want a brighter or darker tone. And these settings can be set individually for your left and your right. So if you want, you can have 2 different voicings for your stereo out. You have the unbalanced TS or TRS out. You have your XLR. And with the XLR, you can bypass the emulations that are built in, and you can use your own IRs, which is very cool. And it has 7 different digital reverbs. There's 2 of them that really stuck out to me as being like more my taste. But if you like really long ambient reverbs, or if you like really short ones and anything in between, it's in here. And from what Jose told me, those are basically the same kind of reverb that you find in the Thermion Zero, which is their like pedal board amplifier.
Pedal board amp,
yeah. And people really like the reverb in here. So it's in this unit as well. You also have a clean and a crunch in this pedal. So if you prefer just using straight up distortion, more like Fender-ish tweed kind of thing, you can use that. Or you can go clean. You have a normal and bright, depending on the voicing that you want. You have the effects, send and return. And there's also a preamp section. Again, I suck. There's a preamp section here. So if you want to, you could use something like their Heartbreaker or Breakthrough, put it in raw mode and just set it in here. And now you can have the clean channel from the Freeway, but use the distortion from another unit. So if you have another preamp pedal, you can use that. Or you can send everything typically to the front. They also have a USB-C out where you can connect it to your phone. So let's say, I don't know, you're someone that's on Instagram and you do guitar-related videos. You could use this connected directly to your phone and just live stream whatever you're playing with the Freeway.
Wow.
So, yeah. And you have headphone in as well. So you could just use it as a practice amp. But where I found this to shine is as a studio setup. Like if you just want to demo pedals and you don't want to bother with big amps, it's got really high headroom. Brilliant. It's just brilliant, man. I don't know how the hell he comes up with this stuff, but it's a great unit. And it doesn't, like, I have another unit here from Carl Martin called the Ampster.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's a good unit. But this one here, just, if we take away all the features and we just put them side by side, tone-wise, the Freeway just crushes the Ampster. It's got a great sound to it. And then when you start to play with IRs, I mean, sky's the limit on what you can do with this kind of unit. But yeah, that's my number 2. I think this was one of the highlights of the gear that I tried over at Guitar Summit. And even of all the releases that came this year, this was one of the most interesting units to me.
Yeah, you know what I think? I mean, we spoke with Jose last week, and what I think is the case, because you just said, I don't know how he comes up with all of that stuff. I think I know how, because with him, it's like the right mixture. Yes, he's an electric engineer, but he's also a musician. So his ears are trained to achieve a certain sound or to go after a certain sound. And then he has the theoretical skills to look at, okay, what kind of circuit do I need to design to achieve that? And that's a very potent mixture of 2 skills, which is pretty rare, because what I see these days with guys, especially with smaller brands or with pedal companies, you either have a guy that plays a little bit of guitar and has like okay-ish kind of ears, but he's an electric engineer, and he just looks at he looks at schematics and he was, okay, I know how that is going to sound, and then he creates something and puts it out there. But his company or those companies rarely really take off because it's missing the soul part, if you know what I mean. It's kind of it's missing the musician. And then you have other companies where the guy who is actually designing is purely a musician, and he seeks the help of someone who can, fulfill all the technical elements and the design element and the engineering element. And those companies, which normally consist of 1, 2, sometimes even 3 guys, they also take off because it's just 3 guys, and they're like kind of putting all their skills into the mix. Maybe one of them is like a good marketing guy. The other one is the musician, and he's the guy who is going to be in front of the camera. He's demoing the gear. He's telling you exactly what kind of sound they're going for. And there's the guy in the back who's like, on the drawing board and looking at the schematics and coming up with electric designs and whatnot. And yeah, as I said, with Jose, he kind of combines these like 2 very, very good skills. But he also said, he admitted, I'm not very good at marketing. I'm not very good at being in social media and making pictures of myself and everything. So
I think that's the one thing that kind of sucks when it comes to having a company. People can do certain things super well, but there are things where if they lack in those departments, they need the help of someone else. So that's where you get to build a great team where everyone has strength that are just going to elevate your company. And with Jose, I mean, the products he makes, man, I've never played a bad pedal from those guys, ever. Like everything he sent me, I was like, holy shit, man, this sounds good. Like when he sent me the Heartbreaker, I put it in and I was like, this sounds like a Marshall, but not only does it sound like a Marshall, it behaves like it. The interaction I have with it feels like a Marshall, which I've never had with a pedal before. I think the closest I came would be the ZVEX Distortron, which sounds crushing, but underneath the finger, it doesn't feel so much like an amp. It does have the sound, but you kind of have to work with the pedal. So I struggle a bit with it. But with the Heartbreaker or the Breakthrough, I mean, I I'm obviously a Vox guy, so the breakthrough when he sent it to me, I was going to be really, really critical of like how he nailed it. And no, he's got it. Everything's there. Both the units sound great. So when you think of the ecosystem that he's built, he's made sure that whatever you bought from him, if you bought more, everything would be cohesive. It would all be streamlined and work together brilliantly.
Yeah.
But it's not unique to that ecosystem too, because if you want, you could just buy the one thing from him. It could be the Freeway and use whatever pedals you want with it. And it still behaves like it's supposed to. It's not just like one of those, you have to just buy our pedals or else it doesn't sound good with other things, right?
Yeah.
So he's really he wants to serve guitar players not only what they want, but also what they need. And I see in his philosophy the approach of, I want to give guitar players that are at home the opportunity to be able to create music and record and not have to have all this gear to do so. And that's the other thing I forgot to say, but the Freeway is also an audio interface. So if you're getting into recording and you don't have anything to start recording, the Freeway with a USB cable becomes your audio interface. And it's got everything in there, man, that you could ever need. And it's small. It's not confusing. You don't have all these parameters to go through. So yeah, man, it's brilliant little pedal. Really dig it.
Yeah, I think if I had to kind of put together a pedal board with like for an ampless live setup, I would have a really hard time deciding what I would go for, because I mean, there's the Freeway, there is the Revolt, there is the stuff that Boss came out with recently, there's the stuff that Universal Audio came out with. There's so much stuff there, and I think I would most likely spend half a day in a well-sorted sort of retailer to really check all that stuff out and see what I like. Or just order everything and, do it at home or in my environment. I'm not sure what this... Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, you would have your work cut out for you for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so that means, we are going to talk about our number ones now. And the thing is that on my list, you won't find any guitar, as you might have seen by now. You have a guitar on your list. I don't have a guitar on my list because for some reason, and not only this year, but also in the past couple of years, the guitars that came out, they didn't really impress me. There wasn't a guitar I've tried a lot of guitars, but none of them were like, whoa, this is like a game changer to me. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one, but yeah, to me, I don't know. It sort of feels strange, but yeah, they somehow, and I'm not sure if it's just me or if it's the companies that like sees to amaze me. I'm not sure what it is. I can't tell you, but I'm trying guitars and I'm like, yeah, this is nice, but it's not like it makes me want to buy one immediately. You know what I mean?
I think this means that you are long overdue to start building your own guitars.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, I started I started building guitars, so and it's so much fun and it's so entertaining and it's so interesting to see that if you choose the right stuff and you put it together and you put a lot of attention to detail, and if you come up with the right mixture, you create something that's like, oh shit, I don't even want to sell this, I want to keep it. But all right,
nice.
That's so my number one, drum roll, is the Friedman IRX preamp. That's my number one, where we kind of keep moving in that, ampless pedalboard kind of realm.
Yep.
But to me, the Friedman IRX, first of all, it seems like everything that Dave Friedman does, and I repeat myself, everything that Dave Friedman does just, fucking rules. It's everything that he puts his hand on. If it's an amp, if it's a pedal, then he also made guitars at some point. All of that stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
It just really rocks. It feels amazing. It sounds amazing because obviously this guy has lots of years of experience dealing with all that kind of equipment. But the IRX, in my opinion, is my number one, purely for the fact that it is super compact. It gets a huge amount of different tones out of it. The same company that was making the editor and the digital portion of the Soldano Astro 20 was also involved in the Friedman IRX. So there is an editor included that looks very, very similar to the Soldano editor. Okay. And it is super easy to maneuver. You also have a tube-based analog circuit in there, and then you have a digital side, which is obviously the IRs and all that kind of stuff. You can put in your own IRs as well. So all the feature set that Soldano comes with, but the form factor is amazing, and the sound is just I don't know what it is with Friedman amps and Friedman preamps. It's like the Marshall or the high power plexi that you always wanted, that you didn't know that you want. You know, you might have never played a plexi or an original plexi in the first place, but then you play through one of his creations and you're like, whoa, that's what I've always wanted. And now I'm just playing it. So yeah, the Friedman IRX, and also what definitely proves my point is that the first wave was sold out within a day or two at all retailers. So the first 1 or 2 days,
wow, okay.
All the retailers worldwide that had like initial units, they sold them out. They were going away so fast, and
that's crazy.
It proves my point. And the price point, yeah, I mean, it's what is it, 600-ish euros, dollars, whatever. So yeah, it is a higher price point, but you'll get two full-fledged channels of plexi glory, all the 50 shades of plexi, if you want. So
I was wondering where you were going with the 50 shades there. I was like, buddy,
yeah. All the 50 shades of plexi, and yeah, the Friedman BE is obviously like the prominent sound in there. It's the second channel, and you'll get MIDI functionality. You'll have USB to connect it to your computer and to do all the nitty-gritty stuff. And it's just one of those products that definitely made my year, playing with it and fiddling around with it here at home. And then I actually went out one day to play through a PA system because I wanted to know how it sounds. And buddy of mine has a smaller music store in my hometown. Went there, plugged it into a PA system, and I was like, yeah, you wouldn't even need an additional pedal. You know, just take this thing, 2 channels. If you don't need a shit ton of effects, then you're good to go. It's nothing more you need. So
yeah, it's kind of like you were saying, like the people that are more plug and play with the amp, like just a guitar and that could be exactly what they need if they want to get to a more small and compact type of rig. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, my number one, the Friedman IRX. Your turn. And I'm going to say something. Yeah, I'm going to say something that just, I think it's a damn shame that I've never, ever gotten to try anything that is Friedman related, ever. Like I've never tried their pedals or amps or anything. So I would like to try that unit at some point, or even like the pedals apparently are really...
I'm going to send it over to you. I want you to.
Okay.
I want you to try it.
Yeah, because I've heard so much good about it, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Dave Friedman worked with Eddie Van Halen at some point.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was like taking care of his rig or stuff like that, but every time I've heard of Friedman, I was like, there's some Van Halen in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's intentional on his part, but every time you hear like the old Van Halen stuff, like it's girthy, it doesn't sound thin. There's something really like magical about the sound he was getting back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And then when I heard Friedman, of course, I've heard like only recordings, but I was like, it's in that vicinity of that Van Halen Brown sound kind of thing. It doesn't sound thin or raspy or anything. It's like, it's got balls.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, Dave Friedman just has so much experience with all of this stuff because he has worked for so long. I mean, at some point, do you remember Buddha amplification? Or Buddha, or
I think, yeah, Buddha, yeah, I remember them. Yeah,
he briefly worked there. That was like in the early 90s or something. He started out like most guys at like modifying Marshalls, because in the 80s and 90s, a lot of people liked the Marshall sound, but the feature set was like pretty basic. So a lot of these guys, also like Peter Diesel, Reinhold Bogner, all these guys, they started out modifying Marshalls, and from there on, they started making their own designs. I remember a story where someone established a contact between Dave Friedman and Bruce Agneter of Agneter Amplification. They worked together on creating a preamp, which then became like super popular with like studio musicians in Los Angeles. And Agneter kind of became Friedman's, you could say mentor in a way, because Agneter is around a lot longer than Dave Friedman was at that time. Mm-hmm. And then, slowly, like Friedman, he gained like a lot of fans. One of them was Eddie Van Halen. So that's why he worked with Eddie Van Halen on his rig and modifying amps or repairing amps. But he also worked with Steve Stevens. He worked with, I think, also with Billy Howardale from Perfect Circle. Jerry Cantrell. Jerry Cantrell has a signature amp with Friedman. So, and at some point, I think 2007, 2008 was the first time that people saw the first products, the first like real Friedman products. So it's just one of these guys,
Yeah, very cool. So now I'm going to show you my number one.
Please.
It's going to come as a surprise to you. It's a small company out of Germany.
Yeah.
Called FFX Pedals. I know you haven't heard of them. I'll send you the pedal so you can try it out.
Yeah, you're too kind.
That's my number one. Yeah, it's my number one for this year. I would have been remiss not to put it in the list. And it would have been very hypocritical of me to just like pretend that I didn't have that pedal. Because it's killer. Dude, you knocked it out of the park. And the thing is, like, I've watched interviews of people that say, like, okay, so just before I get there, I just want to put the premise that this is a signature, not signature pedal. It's more like a collaboration. Mm-hmm. The Arc of Tone is basically two red llamas in an enclosure, but with some very interesting modifications. So for those who don't know, there's a voltage control for each of the two sides, and we have low pass filter because the original circuit gets really brittle as you start to crank it up, and we put that in there, and those two features and stacking the pedals together gives you so many tones. It's actually crazy. You can get like fuzz territory, high gain territory, or it can be bluesy. You even get in the vicinity of something more like a blues breaker if you want to, more like a light breakup without coloring the tone too much. And I wanted to actually buy a second Red Llama because my Red Llama is like one of my favorite pedals of all time. And I had the one, which is a Mark II, and I was looking at the prices to get another Mark II or maybe a Mark I, and they're expensive. And I didn't feel like ponying it up. And on top of that, I was like, I want to stack them together, but the problem is they're going to get like super bright, and I don't want that. So I remember putting a Facebook post saying, no, one of my life's ambition at some point would be to have a signature pedal or something like that. I was just like goofing off on that morning. And you're like, what would that look like? And I'm like, well, that would be 2 Red Llamas in one box. You're like, let's do it. I'm like, seriously? You're like, yeah, let's do it. So I was like, damn it, that is cool. But I expected, coming back to the point I was going to make, I thought we were going to have to like send it back and forth, and I was going to give you notes on like what I liked, what I don't like, and all this stuff. And I was like, it's going to take forever to get this put. No, first revision, you send it to me. And while it was first revision for me, I don't know if you had like a couple like mishaps with it, like in the design, but the first one you sent to me, I was like, it's fucking perfect. Like, you nailed it. I don't want any other changes. Like, this is awesome. And it happened in like really short window. Like, it took barely any time to get this thing up and running.
Must have happened between July and September this year, simply because I remember we talked on the phone while I was in Spain on vacation, and that was in August. And we started this whole thing beforehand. And then we said we are going to launch it at Guitar Summit, which was the end of September. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. And
so, and go ahead.
For me, it was like, I saw you posting this, and I already knew that. First of all, I mean, we've been collaborating on the whole content thing, that I've been sending stuff out to you, and I always loved what you did with the other pedals. I always liked the content very much. It's high quality content. It sounds good. You were always presenting it well, and even if it was a excuse me, like in the case of the Doble Cabron, where you essentially made like a no talking video and just like playing. It sounded killer. It looked killer. So I was like, if this guy has an idea of what how his ideal pedal would look like, then I think it's going to turn out great. So that's why I said, okay, tell me what you're looking for. And when you said 2 Red Llamas in one enclosure, I was searching for the schematic, and I was like, that's actually a pretty easy schematic. So it's nothing too complicated. And it's a schematic that goes back to the 70s, where we had Anderson. It was Anderson who.
Craig Anderton.
Craig Anderton. I'm sorry, Anderton. Craig Anderton, who first came up with the unit, but obviously since fuzz pedals and creating distortion in a box was very, very wanted back then, he kind of multiplied the gain by 10 times the amount and pretty much made it a fuzz unit. So the original has like a shit ton of gain. Unbelievable. It's to me, it's still impressive that this thing didn't end up being microphonic all the time. So, but and I thought, well, if he has an idea of what he wants his pedal to sound like, then it has to be good. So that's why I asked. And when you said the Red Llama, I was like, okay, it's not going to be too difficult of a task. And also, I wanted to explore a couple of things. I wanted to be a little bit more clever when it comes to switching. So it's the first pedal. Not only was it my first collaboration with someone external, but also I is the first time that I used soft switching and sort of intelligent switching in a pedal, where as we have the, you can use the middle foot switch to change between A and B, or like switch on both at the same time. So definitely a very fun collaboration. And just one last thing, when I tried it, because I regularly go to a session, like a jam session in town. It's a very blues based session, and I have a mini pedal board with me that is battery powered. So because you don't have, for a changeover, you have essentially a minute. You take your guitar, you go there, you plug in, and you're good to go. And I have like 2 pedals on there, which is the Arc of Tone and an all-you-can boost. That's all I need. It's everything you need.
Christ, that's crazy. And one thing also worth mentioning is, I'm going to get it right. So this design here was done by my friend Pascal, which goes by the name Hernox. And he's a great artist. He's a singer and musician. He writes his own music. And this is his day job. Like, he does graphic design, but he does it for the government. So it's very like restricting and all this stuff. But when he's at home, he's doing all like this creative stuff. Like, he's a brilliant guy and very, very talented. So when I approached him, I said, look, I would like some kind of design that kind of harkens back to like the 1970s, like MXR and EHX, kind of stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, I like EHX. Let's go with that theme. So that's where he came up with this design. And but when I got the pedal and I plugged it in, I was floored. I was like, holy shit, dude.
Wow.
This is even better than what I had anticipated, because all I thought was just stacking both sides. And that was it, right? But everything else that's in here makes this pedal so much better. And yeah, of course, it's my pedal and all this stuff. But even if it wouldn't have been my pedal and you had come out with this and you had to send it my way, it would still be number 1 on my list. That's how I feel about it.
Nice. Yeah, it's it might be interesting to mention that. So you said like the used prices on like some of the original Red Llamas is like insane. So what I find on a quick search, let me just remove this filter. Everywhere. Okay, so this is wow. Okay, so this is a way huge electronics Red Llama that looks almost like orange. Seems to be very, very old.
Okay.
And this
probably
one,
a Mark 1.
$2,600. Are you kidding me? That's like sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to share this one with you. This is insane. What's going on? Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so this one here, is that a Mark 1?
That's a Mark 1. Yeah.
People
Those are look. Well, I'm not a pro here, but it looks to me like the 1990s edition of Way Huge before they closed down.
Okay. I mean, if I look at the one on this, like the first thing that I see here, because I've sorted this by price high to low. So if I look at this, I'm like, okay, you essentially get like 3 pedals, maybe from that era, or like, no, it's that 92, for like 2,600. I find this to be, it's still very expensive, but I mean, at least you get 3 pedals from that era. And if you like, if you're a collector, or if you're like an absolute fanboy of Way Huge, then yeah, okay, fine. But I look at this and I'm like, is anyone ever going to pay? Oh, and it's already reduced by 10%. Is anyone ever going to pay 2,600? Okay, this is in euros actually. 2,600 euros for a pedal. Are you? It's not like it's
if you have a lot of disposable income, maybe.
That's the question. And then the fun part is then we go to the next one, and the whole thing immediately drops to a 10th of the value because it's the 25th anniversary edition, which actually has a high cut. That's interesting. This one has a high cut. Not like the other ones. Okay. So
that one's a limited edition. They didn't make a whole lot of them. And from what I heard, it's not exactly behaving like the other Red Llama. I don't know if the pot they put in there is adding extra gain or whatever, but some people love that. Other people prefer the original version. So it's really a matter of preference, but
okay.
I wouldn't pay $2,589 for a Red Llama. There's no way I would put that much money on a pedal.
Unbelievable. So, but just to draw a little comparison, I'm going to filter this by new, just so that we see what. So, if you wanted to buy a Red Llama new, as of now, that's the MK3 version, right? You would have to pay at least, what is this? This is from Malta, 195 euros plus shipping, obviously. Okay, this is Canada. Yeah, then I'm going to have taxes.
195, we're talking about the small version.
Yes. And
from what I understand, there's some components in there that are not the same as the Mark II and the Mark I.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
I did my research on that just to find out if it was like the same, and it looks like some of the components they were using for the original Red Llama are no longer made, so that's why they made the choice to change. But it's supposed to sound the same. I haven't gotten to compare it, but some of the components are different.
Okay. So, but just to draw the comparison, so you're going to have to pay something around 200 for a Red Llama for one that comes with the standard features. The Arc of Tone for like 235 euros, which is around that. You'll get 2 Red Llamas and you'll get additional features. Just saying.
Yep. And the thing that's really important to say is that with the Red Llama, like I have the Red Llamas, I stacked them together, and I even sent it to you.
Yeah,
so you could compare and see, like, if we were in the vicinity. And I think I sent the hot tubes as well, right?
You sent the hot tubes. So
you had
which I found in comparison, I found to be almost hideous. I found.
Yep. They're both supposed to be based on the same circuit. So I did a shootout video with the Red Llama and the hot tubes, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, I prefer the hot tubes." And I'm like, really? Yeah, maybe in the audio comparison, but if you tried them and you like were interacting with your typical pedal board, you might not like the hot tube so much because it doesn't take pedals really well, in my opinion.
Okay.
And it's a bit constricting. Like, it's super woofy. So yeah, it can make single coils sound great, but its interaction with other pedals, not so much. But for anyone that's like, how close is the Red Llama, or not the Red Llama, but the Arc of Tone to the Red Llama? If you don't use any of the filtering or voltage, it's the same pedal.
Yeah, exactly.
But just with way more output volume, and you can achieve way more gain out of it. But if you like go by ear and play them, I A-B'd them and I couldn't tell the difference. That's how great it is.
Yeah. Amazing.
So that was my number one.
That was your number one, and I feel humbled that it is your number one, and I'm really happy that we did this collaboration because it led to us getting to know each other better and starting this podcast. And I'm really enjoying doing this podcast with you. So
it's
led to awesome. A couple of things, and you went to Guitar Summit, and you found out that it's a lot better than you thought it would be. So
oh no, it everything just kind of lined up and happened naturally, which is really cool, and I'm happy about that.
So this is that was your top 5, that was my top 5. Any honorable mentions, anything that you in these past 1.5 hours have thought that didn't make it into your top 5, but you would like to mention it because maybe it gave you some kind of cool experience.
There's 3 things that are in the honorable mention, and they didn't make it in because we were limited to 5. So they would have been somewhere in there. And I really didn't like class everything really in the order of like least best to best. It was more like a random top 5, and these could have ended up in here. So one of them is the Flatley DG Fuzz.
Okay.
So this, from my understanding, is a fuzz face, but with some very clever mods. So there are two knobs on here. Let me see. There is the tone, and the tone knob that he's using, I'm not sure what kind of tone it is, but it's the same that he's using in other pedals, and the shift is drastic. Okay, so it's not like either boosting the highs or cutting the highs, or where you have this pivot where you can balance out the highs and the lows. It doesn't work this way. It's completely shifting the mids.
Okay.
So when you have this with a fuzz, you can go from like typical silicon fuzz face to something that sounds almost like a super fuzz.
Oh.
And anything in between. And on top of this, they have this grunt button. I'm not sure what it is. Like, he didn't tell me electronically what it did, but it's adding another layer of filtering that can just get you some crazy tones. So I was really debating between this and the Surfy Fuzz from Surfy Bear, because to me they're like on par. They're equally good. They just sound completely different. They're really different circuits. So that's one of them. The other one that I really like this year is the Schnobeltone compressor. It's an optical compressor.
Yeah.
And it is really subtle compared to, let's say, something like the MXR Dynacomp, which is like really in your face and pumping.
Yeah.
This one here, you can put it at the front of your pedal board. And if you want to, you can just boost the front end of your amp when it's overdriven, or maybe in front of overdrives, and get more sustain without it sounding squishy. So, and you're not going to get like that chicken picking kind of like country thing out of it, because it doesn't compress that much. So I'm not certain what the ratio is for the compression. I'm not sure if it's like 3-to-1 or 6-to-1 or something like that.
Okay,
but it's a little more on the subtle side. So if you're new to compression and you dial it in, you go, this sounds like shit. Like, where's my dynamics? You're not going to get that issue with this one here. It's more like studio grade compression. So that would be one of them. And I have two more that could have made it in this list. One of them I don't have, and the other I do have. So in terms of budget options, if you're a bass player, this here, the Joyo, okay, the name kind of sucks, Double Thrust. It's kind of they've been out on a rampage coming up with weird names lately. This is kind of like their take on the whole dark glass thing. So if you're a bass player and you want to get into that dark glass kind of sound, and all the options, but without paying the premium, I think these go for like 69 euros or something like that. And they are crushing it. Like, it sounds spectacular for the price point.
Okay.
If you would put another name brand on there, and you would put like a clever name, I'm sure this could sell for twice as much easily. So very cool pedal from Joyo. I enjoyed this one more than the other one that they have, which is called the Monomyth. The Monomyth to me was okay, but not great. But this one here with bass, man, I have a Alpha Omega from Dark Glass, and when I compare them, the sound quality to me is just as good out of this unit than my Dark Glass.
Nice. Okay.
And my last one is something that you introduced me to, which is Soulman pedal boards.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So when I went to Guitar Summit, you told me that your pedal board was from these guys, and you told them just go across over there and you're gonna get to meet him. So I went to his table, talked with him. The guy's super nice. Was just walking me through all his pedal boards. One, they look great. Two, he's got some very good features on them, and the price point is ridiculous. I mean, it's just great price point. So I know you can talk way more about it because you own one of their pedal boards, but that would be one of my honorable mentions where I don't own the piece of gear. That's definitely one of them.
Yeah, with Soulman, the thing is that I was introduced to them originally, I think, in 2018 or 2019 at Guitar Summit, where I was... we were not exhibiting with Reverb back then, but I was there. I was involved in the development of a product, a Blue Guitar amplifier, the Iridium Edition Amp 1. And I was there and I did a demo that day of said amplifier. And Chris from Jupiter Effects introduced me to the guys from Soulman. It was Christian, the person who you met, and then there was a friend of his, and they both were like taking care about the booth. And then we were going out to eat something, a pizza, don't remember, but the weather was nice. Everybody was sitting outside, and that's where I got to meet the guys. And after that, they were nice and everything, but I initially, as a like cool demo kind of show board, I bought myself a Schmidt-Array board. So I got my hands on a Schmidt-Array SA600, which is like the 60 centimeter version. And for those of you who are not familiar with Schmidt-Array pedal boards, they're super expensive. They're very exclusive in a way that this guy rarely has them stocked. Normally, they're all just like built to order because everybody wants different features. They're catered to people who do not need to look at the price point of a pedal board, but they want something that's like robust and looks great. You know, it's like, so he has a lot of customers in the US, especially like session guys or guys who tour a lot. So, and they look great, but A, they're super expensive. B, they're very, very heavy. That's the other thing. They're very heavy and they're kind of bulky as well. So, and then when I had the Schmidt-Array board, which is essentially a board with two levels, and you can you have like I don't know what this thing is called, but like you can open the upper level, and then below that you have like more space. But then when I put all the pedals that I wanted in there, I was like, the bulkiness takes kind of some of the space away. So, and I didn't really like that. So I sold the Schmidt-Array board again, and I bought, and I was looking for like alternatives because I wanted something with two levels, because what I like is that everything you present on the upper level looks clean and neat, and all the power supply stuff and the cables and everything is down there. So, what happened was I looked at alternatives, and that's where I found Soulman, who had just announced their first like two-level board, which is the LD55DD. That's the one that I have, and it's on their website as well. We're gonna put a link in the description, and they're just amazing boards. They look great, and they have additional features where you can get these modules, like a power module, in and output modules, and all kinds of modules that you can put into the back in order to make things even more streamlined and more organized. So highly recommend. And they have something for all sizes and tastes. You know.
Yeah. That's right. Yep.
Soulman.
I'm actually talking with Christian right now about doing a longer video where he sends me a board and I get to put it together, because the problem with doing like a pedal board demo is that there's nothing to hear, right? It's like it's a pedal board. It's not a pedal.
I know. Yeah.
But like I was talking, I'm talking with him. It's taking a bit longer because he's really busy. But the idea would be to choose a pedal board, and then I start to build something just to show how practical they are, how useful they are, the kind of real estate that you have in terms of how many pedals you can put in.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of talking about that right now, because I left him my business card. He was really interested in collaborating on videos. And I said, yeah, man, we're going to do something. Well, let's do something like cool, something that's long format. We're going to put links to your stuff, because he's still a smaller outfit. And I think that he deserves way more attention, and not just from European consumers, but also from North Americans.
Yes.
So that people can actually see that you have alternatives. You don't just have something like the Schmidt Array, which no diss on them. I've never tried their stuff. It looks killer. It looks like it's great quality, but the price is up there, and the availability is also kind of scarce. So if we start to look at something like Soulman, and like I said, like anyone that doesn't believe me, just go check out the prices on his website. Like, he's not giving it away, but the prices are awesome.
Yeah.
They're very appealing, and I've seen them firsthand, and you own one, and I think we can both vouch that the quality is there, and he could charge way more for those pedal boards if he wanted to.
Yeah, it's true, but he also wants to be like right in the middle between all the stuff that's considered standard, like pedal train and whatnot, and all these like super high-end companies such as Schmidt Array, and there's like there's this company out of Nashville that does these custom pedal boards. It's in the same kind of range where Schmidt Array is. So I only have one honorable mention, actually. And it's the thing that I'm using right now in this moment. I'm very, very, very surprised, because I bought this thing. This is the T-Bone BC500. So that's Thoman's house brand. When we said we're going to start this podcast, I wanted something to keep my work desk organized. So I bought this Rode arm, this kind of arm to attach the microphone. And also it kind of has like a nice cable management system, so you don't see the cable, it's not floating around. Yeah, exactly. And
you got the same one.
I love this one. And the other thing, this T-Bone BC500, I know that the SM7, the SM7B is considered the standard for these kind of applications, but full disclosure, I never really liked the SM7B, not even for singing. I know it is very popular among singers, especially when they want to be in the room with the producer and everything, because it is like so, like because it's a dynamic microphone and whatnot. But yeah, and I've come to really like this microphone because it's like 90 euros, which is nothing. So 90 euros, I don't think is a huge price point. And once I figured out how to not use it, people who saw the first 2 episodes might have found my voice a little like lacking some low end, which is, then I figured out, okay, there are buttons on here, like little switches that you don't touch. And once I've started to use it right, I was like, this is great. And I've used it for a couple of other applications apart from this podcast as well. And I'm super surprised by how well it sounds and how easy it is to work with in post. So if you're looking for any kind of, even singing, or you want to record your vocals in whatever kind of context, I highly recommend it. I'm definitely going to link it in the description below as well. So that is my honorable mention, not guitar related.
Yeah. And you also have the same JFET preamp thing on your microphone,
The
right?
Clark Technic, exactly. The one that you recommended when I was like, damn it, I need my preamp is at like maximum. It's at 60 dBs and I still don't have enough signal.
Yeah. I know that. Well, that's the thing that's kind of funny about us starting. Like, I knew about this JFET preamp but I didn't know about the boom arm. So I recommend that to you, and then you recommended this one here. So I was like, okay, let's go look online, see what this thing looks like. And I got another one, but I'll show you what it looks like. So for the first, I think, podcast, this is what I was using. Shit, I suck at this stuff. So basically there's like big springs right there. It's flimsy. It's super thin. I think I paid like $15 for this thing. But this was when I started my first podcast, which was last year. And it was just me talking to myself.
Yeah.
So I bought this and I was like super careful with the setup. And I think I made like 5 episodes and I got bored, like super bored. I was like, I'm not going to be able to sustain this forever. So I just quit on that one. I was like, fuck this. Like, if I'm going to be talking to myself for 15 minutes and be bored to tears, just talking to nobody, I'm not going to sustain this. So when you came to me and you said, I'm thinking about doing a podcast, I'm like, I'm thinking about doing a podcast again too. How about we could do it together? I was like, yes, because now I got I got a feedback loop. I got someone I can interact with. I could never pull off 2-hour podcast on my own. I could have never done it. It would have been, I would have just rage quit halfway through.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I was thinking about it too. And then when I know people who can do it, but they don't do it without no assistance at all. They have people like around there handling maybe the camera angle to make it like more entertaining or something. But yeah, it is what it is.
Much easier format this way.
Yeah,
much easier.
100%. So I guess that means we're at the end of this episode. There is a couple of things I'd like to mention. So this is the last episode of this year, but then again, it's episode number 6. We just started this, so
just started.
And what I would like to tell everybody what's going to happen next year. So we're currently talking to a lot of people from different companies and people that are in different like sort of positions in these respective companies. So we're looking to add a lot more guests to the rooster in the next year. And we are going to keep the weekly rhythm. So you can expect a new podcast episode every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Central European Time. And it's going to be a lot more entertaining because we're going to have more guests, as I just mentioned. And, we will never run out of topics. We've collected so much stuff that we wanted to talk about. It's going to be hard to touch all of those topics. And then again, I think the next year is really going to be interesting, not only regarding what's going to happen in the industry, but also because the evolvement of products is not going to stop. People are going to keep trying to find solutions for certain problems. And I'm really looking forward to that.
It's going to be a very interesting year. And on top of that, like you mentioned, we have some very interesting guests. I mean, anyone could say that, oh, we got some interesting guests. But the thing is, you got like the more famous people we might be able to get on, but there's also people we all benefit from knowing about because they have a smaller outfit and you might not know the name, but still click on the podcast, come check it out, because you might be able to find out that there's someone making the pedal you're looking for, making the pedal board you're looking for, or maybe someone is cluing you into something about the industry you've never heard about. So you might not know the name, you might not know the person, but still come check it out, because I mean, we're all about talking about this industry, but with no filters. We're talking about what is actually happening from different perspectives. I just got confirmation that Andy Ferris from The Guitar Geek accepted to come on the podcast.
Nice.
So we might have a few YouTubers coming in, people from different aspects of this industry. So I think we have a very interesting format, and we're going to have some really killer guests. So yeah, subscribe. We don't say it enough, but subscribe to the channel.
Yeah. Subscribe to the channel and ideally hit the bell icon. And if you're not about bell icons, set yourself a timer for Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Central European time, so you can chime in to the newest episode. That was episode number 6. Thank you so much for supporting us thus far, and thank you so much for listening. And I, on my behalf, I wish everybody a great transition into 2024, and we are going to see you very, very soon.
Cheers.
Cheers.